Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Teddy Silverman, and I'm on the board of directors of National Council of Jewish Women San Francisco, NCJW. NCJW strives for social justice and equity by improving the lives of women and family, and we turn progressive ideals into action. We have a racial justice and diversity committee, and a major focus has been on educating ourselves and others about racism. And our social action is going to be on promoting police reform, legislation on police reform. Today, we are very, very honored and humbled to hear from two mothers who have lost their sons to police violence. These extraordinary women have turned their pain and grief into serving the community. In memory of their sons, both of the families have established foundations in their sons' honor. And these foundations help to empower families in need and to help ensure the safety of all our children so that they have a future. Many of us here are mothers tonight, but you don't have to be a mom to know that all our children and our families should be safe from guns and from those that are tasked to keeping us safe. So thank you again for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to Rachel Brasso.
Thank you very much, Teddy. Good evening, everyone. I am also a member of the NCJW board and a proud member of the Diversity Committee. It is truly my honor to introduce Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who took the time to honor our event in between her busy schedule, having recently traveled to Tulsa to participate in the Justice for Greenwood event and other myriad commitments, which includes her tireless efforts in supporting women of color to run for and or maintain their positions in the Democratic Party. She has recently, over the course of last year, been tireless in her work through the Representation Matters series. Representative Lee never misses an opportunity to lend her voice to empower and support others. Once again, she shows her dedication and commitment to justice, fairness, and serving others, and exemplifies a dedicated public servant. She honors our event to let these amazing, strong Black women, Geraldine Bluford and Reverend Wanda Johnson, know how important that they are as constituents and as mothers in their continued fight for justice. Fittingly, as Representative Lee honors Pastor Mike in his role in the neighborhood, as you'll hear, similarly, Representative Lee dedicates herself to her constituents, and she always stands for what is right, fair, and never hesitates to speak the truth. I'm also humbled that Representative Lee so kindly honored my mother, who I lost nearly a year ago, in recognition of her advocacy and commitment to social justice. I am truly humbled to present Representative Barbara Lee.
Thank you, Rachel, for that very kind and warm introduction. And thank you so much to the National Council of Jewish Women San Francisco for creating a space to have this conversation with these incredible Black mothers. I'd also like to give a special thanks to Pastor Mike McBride for making the neighborhood your parish and for leading us through this conversation. It has been 12 years since 22-year-old Oscar Grant was tragically shot and killed by a police officer, and 9 years since 18-year-old Alan Bluford was shot and killed by police as well. But their deaths are as raw and as painful as ever. Oscar was a beloved member of our East Bay community. He was a devoted father, a loving son, a kind neighbor, and a loyal friend. Alan was just 2 weeks away from graduating from Skyline High School. He loved playing football. He was a loving son as well and had a smile that could light up any room. My love and condolences again go out to the mothers and families of these beautiful and brilliant young men. I know that you are still feeling your loss in so many ways. Their deaths were senseless, unjust, and entirely preventable. Black and brown communities are tired of living in fear and tired of living under oppression. We should not have to fear those who have taken an oath to protect and serve. We could not have a system of policing in which some communities feel safe and others feel targeted. Black and brown communities cannot and should not continuously endure this trauma. As the mother of 2 Black sons and the grandmother of 5 Black grandchildren, I worry that one of them could be next. Last Tuesday marked 1 year since Mr. George Floyd's murder, and although there was a conviction, it does not mean that we have fixed the system. This is why it's imperative that the Senate pass the George Floyd Justice in Policing Act immediately and send it to the President's desk for a signature, creating a national standard of accountability, ending qualified immunity, and improving police training. These are just modest steps, and this should be the beginning. Friends, too many Black lives have been lost. Too many families have been left in grief. Let us listen to these powerful Black mothers. Let us be thankful for their strength in dedicating their lives to justice and ensuring that we forever remember Oscar and Alan. Thank you again for hosting this discussion and inviting me to be with you virtually. And yes, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone again in person soon.
Next on our program, we have Janice Jacobs.
Hello. I'm honored to introduce, can you all hear me fine?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. I'm honored to introduce Chaplain and Minister Geraldine QT Brown Bluford. For some reason, her name, she's on the call, but she's listed under my name. So,
your recording has reached the maximum length.
but she's here. Sorry. Geraldine and I met last year through a mutual friend, and I've had the honor of working with her and other volunteers of the Alan Bluford Foundation. She's truly an inspiration and a passionate leader in the fight for justice and human rights. Geraldine is the co-founder of the Alan Bluford Foundation and the co-director of the Alan Bluford Center for Justice. Justice Community Center. These initiatives were born out of the tragic murder of Geraldine's 18-year-old son, Alan. She has had a long connection with the Jewish community. Her first job from the ages of 15 to 18 was at the Oakland Piedmont Jewish Community Center. She worked there during summers as a CIT and camp counselor, and the JCC was her introduction to working in the community, working with children, and as a part of the extended Jewish community. Prior to becoming a chaplain and minister, Geraldine spent many years as a healthcare professional at Highland Hospital and in a doctor's private practice. While raising her family, she graduated from Western Dental College, becoming a registered dental assistant and certified surgical assistant. She worked as a surgical assistant until the death of her son, Alan. Her endeavor now as a minister and community leader is to be instrumental in healing those who have suffered injustices and fight for anyone who's being treated unfairly. Geraldine's goal to help reform of police departments, empower the community, and bring policy changes, laws, and solutions that will result in no more police killings and police brutality. The goal is to have a better relationship with our communities and police. I am so honored to introduce my friend and inspiration, Chaplain and Minister Geraldine QT Brown Bluford.
Thank you so much. It is such an honor, a distinguished honor to be chosen here tonight on this panel to share with some beautiful and powerful women, agents of change. I thank you for this opportunity to share with you this hour. And also, thank you, Janice, for your hard work and commitment. Again, it is my honor to share with you, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Ms. Bluford. It is my distinct honor to introduce our other mother, whom will be sharing with us tonight. And I'm going to try to pin myself here. And that is Reverend Wanda Johnson. And Reverend Johnson has become an amplified voice of empathy and compassion for individuals seeking justice, grieving, and healing from innocent lost lives by hands of law enforcement. Her beloved only son, Oscar Grant III, was murdered by an Oakland BART transit officer on January 1st, 2009. She works side by side with the mothers and countless other families. She is the CEO of the Oscar Grant Foundation, a 501c3 that helps at-risk youth, grieving families, student support and enrichment, education, and hunger. A dynamic, well-spoken activist, she has made guest appearances on nationally syndicated television programs as at respected universities and at public forums. She continues to bring attention to injustices that remain prevalent in law enforcement and the criminal justice system. And it was at a public forum is when I first met Reverend Wanda Johnson. And it was a year or two after the killing of her son for other mothers who had lost children. Reverend Wanda, thank you for being here and welcome.
Benita, thank you so much for the invitation to be on the panel today. You could have chosen anyone else, but you chose me for whatever reason. And so I'm just happy and honored to be here tonight. And I pray that something that I say would cause you to have a burning within yourself to join this fight with us for justice. To ensure that our people, souls, are renewed in America, to ensure that justice occurs for not some, but for all. Again, I thank you for choosing me today to be on your panel.
And thank you very much. And we're just going to move right along and get this started. And I would like to introduce Pastor Mike McBride. Pastor Mike is a national leader in the movement to implement public health and community-centered gun violence prevention programs. And the campaigns that he has co-led has contributed to 30 to 50% reductions of gun-related homicides in Oakland and many other cities across the country. He is the founder and lead pastor of the Way Church in Berkeley. And he also serves as the director of Faith in Action's Live Free Gun Violence Prevention campaign. He's regarded as a national faith leader, active in the Ferguson uprisings and many subsequent uprisings. He helps bridge, train, and support millennials and religious institutions working on racial justice and Black liberation. Pastor McBride has served on a number of local and national task forces with the White House and the Department of Justice regarding gun violence prevention, boys and men of color, and police community relations. It is my great pleasure to not only introduce my brother, whom we have worked on a few platforms together, but someone I can call friend. Ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to some and to welcome to others, Pastor Mike McBride. Thanks, Pastor Mike, for being here tonight.
Well, it is a blessing to be here, and so much gratitude to be able to share this sacred time with Mother Wanda and Mother Geraldine, and to the comrades that are on the line from our Jewish women's community. Again, it's a gift to be able to be here with you, and so I look forward to the conversation. So much important work that needs to be done to unify us across all of our lines of difference, to work for communities and a world that is free from fear of violence and criminalization. And so glad to be here, and I'm glad to move the conversation along. I'm here to be a conversation mover, not a conversation interrupter. And so this is about the mothers tonight, and with your permission, Benita, I think I'll just jump right on in here.
jump right on in, please. Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah. So this issue of how do we as a community support and ensure those who have lost their sons, their daughters, their children to state violence at the hands of police officers, security officers, or others is arguably one of the greatest moral crises of our day. And it is a crisis that is not new. There's never been one day in the history of this country where Black and brown bodies have not been subjected to this arbitrary violence at the hands of the state. And every generation finds new victims and families that must bear the brunt of America's inability to respond with expedience and justice to ensure that state violence does not radically alter the unsuspecting lives. I heard the Johnson family make this remark at one of the memorials for Oscar Grant, that this is a club no family wishes to join. And yet they must live the rest of their life trying to point all of our eyes towards a higher purpose and a call. And so to get us started, I would just love for Mother Wanda, and then I will come certainly to you, Mother Geraldine, to just give us a quick story about your sons. Often we talk about the victimization, but we don't always remember the best about their lives. And so I would just love for you in your own words to just introduce us. Introduce us to Oscar, introduce us to Alan in your own words, and just share in your own words the kind of journey of healing that you have had to endure and the work that lies ahead. And then we will hopefully get an opportunity to talk a little bit about how loved ones on this call and beyond can be much more supportive in ending this epidemic of violence in our community. So Mother Wanda, I'll come to you. Tell us about Oscar and your family, and why was he so beloved, and what is the journey of healing that you have had to take, you and your family, in the aftermath of this great tragedy and injustice?
Those are great questions. So I want to just share a couple stories about Oscar really quick. We were living in San Leandro, and one day I came home and Oscar's sliding door was open. There was people who lived downstairs, underneath us, and above us. And when I came home, it was cold in the house, and I was like, well, why is it cold in here? And so I went into Oscar's room where his sliding door was, and there was a cord that was actually plugged into the wall. And so what I did was unplug it and I threw it out the door and closed the window, the sliding window. But what I didn't realize at that time was Oscar had that cord in the socket because the people downstairs, they didn't have any electricity. So the neighbor came and knocked on the door, and I opened the door. I said, yes, because I didn't realize that at first. And he said, is Oscar home? I said, no, he's not here. How could I help you? And he told me that they didn't have any money to pay their PG&E, so Oscar was allowing them to plug up and use our PG&E. And I teased Oscar when he came home. I said, who's going to pay my PG&E bill now? But, I'm grateful that Oscar had a heart to help, somebody in need. Another story for Oscar that really sticks to my heart is the night that Oscar was killed. Oscar was trying to protect his friends and letting them know, man, we're going home. Just follow the instructions of what the officers say. And when Oscar saw one of his friends being treated so badly, Oscar stood up and said that he wanted to talk to somebody in charge. And so I'm saying this and I'm sharing this story, and I'll share one more and then I'll go to the other question. Oscar, when he was working at the farmers market in Oakland, a young lady came in who did not know how to cook fish, and she didn't even know what type of fish to buy, but she wanted to buy some and learn how to cook some. And so I was sitting in my mom's house at her counter, and she was on the other side, and we were in the kitchen. We happened to be in the kitchen, and the phone rang, and it was Oscar. And he was like, hey, Grandma. And she was like, hey, Oscar. And he says, I have a lady here who wants to cook some fish, but she don't know how to cook it and she don't know what type of fish to buy. And so my mom starts telling her what kind of fish to buy and how to cook the fish. And so Oscar was a person who, when he saw someone who had a need, if there was a way that he could help that person, he would extend his hand to help that person. And so there's so many stories that have been told to me after Oscar's death from those who have went to the grocery store concerning Oscar and his love and help for them. And, I'm so grateful that, Oscar made that kind of impact on so many people's lives that I didn't even know. And he's still making an impact today. And so I always think about and have been thinking about what John Lewis said when he said, get in good trouble, necessary trouble, and help redeem the soul of America. And so, everyone on this session, we should all be getting into good trouble to ensure that no one else has to endure what Oscar endured the night that he lost his life on the platform. We should all be getting in good trouble to ensure that no one loses their life like Alan Bruford had to lose his. And, having the accomplices, which is on this Zoom session, to help us to not fear about how society will look at each of you and us when we stand up for what is right. That's what, is so important, that everyone on this session tonight don't get off of this session the same way that you got on the session, but get off of this session with a fire within you to help and work to change the way America has been treating those who have been unfortunate, destitute, those who have been racially profiled. And it will take each one of you to have that fire in you to change the course of our society. So thank you, Pastor Ben, for that question.
Well, yes. Come on, clap it up. Act like we in a black church because Mother Wanda preaching. Absolutely, as we know she does. Certainly, Sister Geraldine, Mother Geraldine, I would love for you just to tell us some stories about Alan. And the reasons why I ask mothers to do this before we get into any organizing questions, most time our young men are so criminalized in their life and even in their death that people come to these conversations with pity for our families, when we should come to these conversations with a deep appreciation of their humanity. And out of that deep appreciation of their humanity, we then respond with gratitude, solidarity, and prayerfully we become a champion, as Mother Wanda said, to get in good trouble. So let's hear some good stories about Alan. I know she already smiling. I know she got a whole bunch of stories. Go ahead, Mother.
Thank you, Pastor Mike. And thank you, Reverend Wanda. I've known Wanda since my tragedy began. She was one of the first people that called and reached out when I was just getting the news. And we've developed a sisterhood, a kinship, because no one really realizes, unless they walk this journey, what this journey really means, what it is to have your child stolen from you. It's just not like, it was something, their lives are stolen. And so I just thank her and appreciate her for paving the way and for taking her good trouble all across this United States of America, because we all need to know the truth. And so Alan Dwayne Bluford was my youngest child, my youngest son. Alan was a light unto this world. He was someone with a very strong personality who was good at almost anything. Now, I'm not just bragging because it was my son. I'm saying these things because when we talk about the memories of our children, it's what carries us through the day. It's what helps us to get up off of that floor when we've had a hard day and it feels like the world is crashing on you. When you think about that smile, or you think about that story, or you think about a life that he's touched, that's what helps you to get up. And that's what helps you to push on and take your pain into your purpose, which is the purpose of change. And so Alan was a senior in high school at Skyline Senior High School in Oakland, California. He was 2 weeks away from his high school graduation. He worked for the Oakland Unified School District. He had just gone to his prom 2 weeks prior to this tragic incident. And the young lady told me, Mrs. Bluford, Alan was such a gentleman. It was funny because when we went to the house to pick her up, she came out and she was taller than he was. And we both kind of laughed because he said she looked like she was on Basketball Wives. And so we kind of just chuckled. And she had these really high shoes on. And she said the night of prom, her feet were hurting and Alan carried her so that she didn't have to walk on the gravel. And he opened the door, and how polite he was, and what a good time that she had with him. And Alan had an effect upon people. Like if you were someone who needed help, he helped you. The elderly, he would give out candy so they didn't have to get up and go to the door while there were trick-or-treaters. He picked up trash on the church parking lot. He helped his and tutored friends in his geometry class who couldn't get the formulas. He could do numbers in his mind. And his math teacher told me, Mrs. Bluford, whatever he does, make sure that he does it with numbers, because I've never seen anyone read a problem and calculated it. She said, I thought he was just, I didn't know how he was getting the answer, but when I asked him to show me, he read the answer and broke it down for me. And I have him tutoring the other students. And so he had a 3.0 grade point average. He was a scholar athlete where teams recruited him to play on their team. He won championships in football and basketball. And he was even recruited. The people were coming from Laney College and Merritt College wanting him to play on their basketball team. It was just a lot. He was looking forward to graduation, and he saved up his money to buy his own car. He was just very independent. And it's funny because when he was about 7 years old, his dad asked him, Alan, what do you want to be when you grow up? He said, I don't know, Dad, but whatever it is, it's going to be big. And they say out of the mouth of babes, but he knew that he can make an impact on people's lives. And he would see a homeless person and say, oh, Mom, you got a couple of dollars? They're just hungry, and want to do things to make change. And so on May 6th, he was just with a couple of friends and he was racially profiled, and he was shot and killed by a rogue cop, a cop with a history of bad deeds and foul play. And the thing that is most disturbing is the fact that the city of Oakland stood with the officer and covered it up. And not until a couple of months ago did we get the police report after 9 years where this officer violated over 15 policy changes he didn't obey by. 15. And they discovered the lies. And the thing about it is, you asked Pastor Mike what it was that took me on this journey and how did I take my pain into a purpose. Well, when they came out with the story about what happened to Alan, it was not the truth. And I knew that couldn't be my son, and that he never shot this police officer, when the officer said my son shot him at first, but the evidence didn't uphold that. So he had to change the story and lie again. And they all got behind him and lied. And because of that, it sparked a fire in me to find out what happened to my boy. I wanted to know the truth. I was like, no, they're victimizing him like he's like he's the villain when he's the victim. And so we started out seeking the truth. And that is what ignited that fire, because the more they lied, the more that fire burned inside of me to get to the bottom of what really happened. And that's how I started the Justice for Allen. The Justice for Allen Coalition was started with our family, and my husband saying, no, we're not going to listen to what they say. We're finding out our own facts. And so sometimes I'm saying, like, you wanted good memories, but Allen's beautiful personality, the light, his smile, all the attributes were stolen. But from their theft sparked a fight to change. And I became a change agent. And that's how things have turned around. And I miss him terribly, but the memories are what helped me to make it through.
Thank you so much, Mother. And I just want to appreciate your transparency. And you know, I had heard about Allen's death, obviously, as we were just ramping up the protest efforts in lots of different spaces and places. And I did not even know myself all of those stories that you share with Allen, about Allen. But I think one thing that has become clear is that too often our children don't get the opportunity to be described by their mothers. To police officers, to teachers, to strangers in grocery stores or in malls or walking down the street. They never get a chance to hear that Oscar put extension cord to pay for electricity, that Allen, you know, literally showing male chivalry that we thought was dead by carrying his date so she don't have to walk on rocks. Like, and so I want to say with you, Sister Geraldine, because I do want you to take the second question first, then we'll come to Mother Wanda. What would you say to this audience tonight who often don't get a chance to hear mothers' side of their children's lives in an aftermath of a tragic incident, or dare I say, before the incident happens? We talk about solidarity, and I often tell people, you know, the tragedies that we're talking about in Oakland did not happen under Donald Trump. They did not happen in the white supremacist Ku Klux Klan South, right? Like, somebody is raising men, primarily white men, to become police officers that can quickly take the life of too many of our young people without accountability or remorse. What do we need to say to the white mothers and individuals in the Bay Area that will help them understand what we need from them so we don't have to continue to experience these nightmares? What would you say? What kind of solidarity, what kind of, you know, allyship, quote unquote, we use these words, what would you like to see from folks on this call to help spread the word of how we all need to show up to make sure this does not continue to happen?
Well, thank you. That is a great question, Pastor Mike. First of all, I have to say that there has been a long line of history of discrimination, racial profile, bad deeds of the police departments. And a lot of times, these things are swept under the rug. Unless you have someone who is there that could testify, or you have a video, you will not be able to really get your point across, because immediately they fill the airways with disinformation and misinformation and alleviate the facts. I want to just start with that, because what they do is they build their own narrative. And as a mother, I know my son. It's hard sometimes to get his story out. If you're not out there, and as Reverend Wanda knows, you're paving You have to pound the pavement and tell your story and knock down doors and fight your way through, because they won't do it. They want you to see things this way because they don't want the other mothers and the other nationalities and ethnic groups to come together. This way, they keep us divided. They have this person look this way and have this person look this way. But if we are all able to see what's really going on, we'd all be going the same way. And the thing about it is that you can never take what they say and figure it that it's facts and that is the gospel. You have to hear from the other side. You can't just make an assumption because it was on the news. We all know about Fox News, and we all know how they change the narrative and the agendas and how they edit out the important parts. Those are important things. You cannot get your facts. Get the true facts. Do some research. Find out about that person, because once it comes on the news, then they got up and told a whole story, as you know, about my son that wasn't true.
Right.
And so you can't.
None of it was true. None of it was true. And what was so sad about these situations is not only do the police lie, but the news agencies take the police lies as truth.
Absolutely.
Until you and I and others have to spend, you said 8 years before you could even see a police report. Again, Mother, I'm going to come to you, Mother Wanda, because with Oscar's situation, if there was not someone recording, you may have had to wait 8 years, if longer, to get justice for Oscar. And so what would you offer? You know, I think Mother Geraldine said it great. Like, we have to hear the stories from the mother side. But what else would you say we need from folks on this call and beyond to make sure we are operating in true solidarity as we live in one of the most diverse communities in the world? The Bay Area is home to so many different perspectives and expertise. Why would we only take one slice of perspective and make that the truth for everyone? What would you say?
So I just want to start out really with talking about really the history of policing first. We have to understand how our policing system was built. When we look at the history of policing, even during the time before slavery, when we were first brought here on ships, when the slaves would try to run away, it was the policing system that would return them back to the master, beaten and whipped. And so when we look at the history of policing, a lot of this is trained behavior. If you look back to the 50s and 60s, that's not long ago. We still have families who are currently in policing, that's bringing their children up in policing, who had a history of being in the Ku Klux Klan. I often say, as I'm doing speeches and I'm talking, that when we look at that history of policing has not changed very much. When you think about the civil rights movement, it was the police who would water down those who were protesting. It was the police that would allow their dogs to attack the protesters. It was the police that would whoop and that would beat the protesters. And so now we come to the 21st century, the 20th century, and we look at how policing has evolved. Now we see there is much killing of police officers, and the term justifiable. We know that oftentimes those who are killed, well, they were resisting arrest. It looked like they were going for a gun. They fear for their life. And so they have this script that they're using. And oftentimes, the majority of the time, they get off for this behavior. And they're not charged with the crime that they committed, and that's killing a citizen, okay, who deserved to be alive on today. And so when we look at that, and we look at Oscar's case, was the first time an officer was charged in California history of an on-duty shooting. And that officer who killed Oscar, he received 11 months in county jail, did not go to prison, and still today can carry a gun if he desires to and apply for the police force. Now, what does that say about our system? Now, I myself would have done that. I would be serving a 25 to life sentence. Okay. So when we look at that, we see how the policing system has a totally different Bill of Rights system than we have. And so what I would say to each one of us on this Zoom session, we don't want you to just be allies, people who show up, but we want you to be accomplices. We want you to know that you are in this fight with us. We want you to commit to know that, and we want you to be in the fight with us, even if it causes you to lose a friend, even if it causes you to face some opposition that you don't want to face. Too many times, privilege is in the way, and because of the privilege, people do not want to become accomplices. They might want to come to a rally every now and then and go back home and it's safe. But we want you to do more than just come to a rally. We want you to stand up for what is right and not allow wrong to have a free pass any longer. And so it will require you to step out of your comfort zone. Some of you may still be in your comfort zone and some of you may not be, but it will require those that are sitting in their comfort zone at home, just watching what's going on. It will require you to get out into the streets and stand up and say, what was done was absolutely wrong, and the one who did it should be held accountable. And it's going to take each of you on this session to begin to say that and to begin to move forward with us as we continue to turn this justice system upside down and cause it to change. Thank you.
Let's appreciate those words from both of these mothers, because I think what they both said is just so right. And I want to just test something. My parents are from North Carolina and Texas, and they moved to the Bay Area in the 70s, largely to flee the racial violence of the South, mostly police officers. Do you know, Geraldine, where your family resides from? Like, were all your folks born in Oakland or the Bay Area?
No, my family was born my grandmother and my great aunt moved from Texas, and they went to Denver for a while, and then they came to California. My uncle worked at the Alameda Naval Base. They migrated from Denver, and during that time, they had the train station in West Oakland. You migrated, you take the train, and my mom was like 4 years old. She lived on Adeline. And then they moved up to off of Lakeshore after a short while. My family has a strong religious background, but my aunt, she moved here. She couldn't have children, and she was a foster parent. And in her neighborhood, they said they didn't want more than 2 foster children. So she had to sue the city of Oakland. The mayor at the time said that he was going to make her case his personal choice to make sure, because mostly in her neighborhood, there were Jewish families, white families, and a few African-American families. My mother was the only African-American girl in the 9th grade at Oakland High. So, they've seen a lot of things along the way. But one thing that I want to say to us all, we all have come from different areas of professions. And we need all of us to put pressure on our local and city government, because what they do on the off voting years, they put in the DAs they want, they put in the police chiefs they want, they put in the city council. I mean, why does Oakland have a voting system like they do? where you have percentages. That means that all of our voices aren't being heard. That means that we're not choosing the people that we want to run our court system, and we're not choosing the people that we want to run local government. And so they put in the people that they want. And those are the people that pass those police officers' Bill of Rights, like Sister Wanda said. Those are the people that give these police chiefs and police officers a pass to shoot through there and say, oh, it's justified. There's no way, if you violate 15 policy things, that DA O'Malley should have let that guy go. There's no way that you should lie to the state attorney general and say that was justified. No, we all, us, the voters, the people who put them in city government, the people who watch the journalists, hold these journalists accountable also, because they listen, okay, I know you have to listen to your editor and all that, but they're reporting stories that are not the truth. And the thing is, we need those kind of allies so that our voice, we can have a seat at the table where we can make the change. And maybe I can't get there because I'm doing a chaplain session, but maybe you can be there. And because you are set on this panel and you heard what the things that we need, you could be that voice to stand up at the city council meeting. You could be that person, because this is a long line of racial divide, and we have to change the policies. Reverend Wanda and I went to the Department of Justice. We had over almost 300,000 signatures saying that we want our civil rights to be heard. And the lady of Civil Rights Department said, this is the things that I can charge the officer with. What you have to do is change the laws. So we need policy change across the board. And we need you to stand with us and be that voice wherever you are, whatever your occupation is. Yes, we need allies. Yes, we need accomplices. But if each one help one, we all get the help. If each one talk about the change, we all hear about the change. And that's what's super important.
Thank you. We're gonna have some questions and answer period in about 5 minutes. So I wanna ask one more question about your foundations, because I run a 501c3, and I know Black-led foundations, Black-led nonprofits are the least funded organizations in the country. Philanthropy put out a report that said that Black-led foundations, Black-led 501c3s get, I think 3 times less funding than white-led foundations doing the exact same work. And when it's women-led, I believe it's even more disparity. And so I hope everyone on this call will consider making a donation to one or both of these tonight. I'm certainly going to, continue to support and make a donation, $25 to both of you all, so y'all can keep doing this great work. But I would love for you all just to say a couple minutes each about your foundation, and what is your biggest hope for the work of your foundation over the next 6 months? We're in the summertime, we're hitting the summer months. What are some things that you all are planning to do this year to keep the not just the memory and the legacy of your sons alive, but to help change the system? Because again, knowing you both, you all aren't looking for pity. You all want transformation. You want change. So tell us, Mother Wanda, what would you like folks to know about your foundation that you named in honor of Oscar, and what kind of work you're hoping to get done this year?
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I wanted to say really quick that my family's way is from Alabama. And so we have been the heat in the heat of racial injustices. You know, my mom worked at a doctor's office where it was a time period when the Blacks had to be in the back and the Caucasians in the front. And she one time had to beg the doctor to see, you know, an African-American man because he was so sick. And so I wanted to just stop to right there. For the Oscar Grant Foundation, we're at a period of time.
Let me just jump in real quick. Why I asked you both those questions, because many people don't know that the reason why Black folks from the South ended up in the Bay Area was because they were fleeing police violence from the South, and they got on the train, and the last stop was West Oakland, and they said, I'm getting on this train until the train stops running. I bet you if they had a train stop in the Pacific Ocean, some of our family members would have rode that thing right into the ocean, because the police violence in the 30s, 40s, and 50s was so bad. And what was Oakland's response? Oakland began to recruit officers from the South to come and police West Oakland, North Oakland, and West Berkeley and North Berkeley Black families that had relocated to get away from those very families. This is the real history of Oakland in the last 50 years. And so I just wanted to put that history there, because isn't it a shame that Mother Wanda's grandparents and Geraldine's grandparents fled the South 50 years ago to get away from this, and here we are 50 years later, and they have been victimized by the very thing their grandparents were trying to get their families out of that condition. And I think it's important for white progressive folks in the Bay Area to hear that history, because when we say we want to reimagine public safety, we want to move resources out of the police department into other responses to community challenges, we're not just making that up because Oscar Grant's life was taken in 2009. We're saying this because for 300 years, this has been our continuous experience without an interruption or a remedy. And I just wanted to make sure we put a point on that. Go ahead, Mother Wanda, tell us about the foundation. Then we're coming to you, Geraldine, to do the same.
And you're so right, Pastor McBride. So the Oscar Grant Foundation, last month we recognized Mental Health Month, and that goes with what Pastor McBride was talking about, you know, redirecting some of the funds. Too many of our people are being killed at the hands of police when they're in the midst of a mental health crisis. And we have allowed the policing to do jobs that they are not trained nor hired to do. And that is when people are having mental health crisis, to come to the aid of that patient. That we have to have the right people to come in cases such as that. And so the foundation has been hosting mental health sessions for us to begin to get the healthy minds and bodies that we need. We're kind of transitioning because we have our youth graduating from high schools, and we want them to be scholars and go to college. So we're providing scholarships for our youth. We've had several applicants who turned in their application, and so we will be reviewing their applications and their essays and picking some of those students and providing them with scholarships. You know, our goal is to be able to fully fund a student coming up in the next few years. Currently, we're assisting, you know, the students who provide and fill out the applications. And also, we have our basketball teams. We have like about 40 different students on our AAU Oscar Grant Ballers basketball team that we not only teach them basketball, but we teach them how to how to go through this society and what to do if they come in contact with the police system or with police. We always tell them to not say anything. We want them to be home, to get home safe, and to allow their parents to begin to take that up and take care of it for them, because our main goal is to keep them safe. The next thing that we're planning on doing, we've been certified. Our goal is to be able to go into these police stations or into these police academies and to share with them the different stories of our children being killed at the hands of police, to be able to put some faces on it, and to be able to do some de-escalation training and some sensitivity training. Because if we really study the length it takes to become a police officer, you can become a Barbara. It takes longer to become a Barbara than a police officer. And something's wrong with that picture. And so we, the foundation, has made it a goal to be able to get into these police stations and to begin to work to train these police on how to do their job, that they have not had the proper time to be trained to do their job. And so look us up on the foundation. We're doing a lot of different activities. And we would love for you to sit in on our Zoom session, and also to be those who help provide by, joining us and assisting us as we move forward to change our communities of policing, and to help our youth to develop a better communication between policing and our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Geraldine. And everyone, the links to their foundations are in the chat. So you can just literally go there and click real quick. And if you can, I'm actually doing it right now. Geraldine, go ahead and tell us about your foundation and what you hope to get done this year.
Okay, thank you, Pastor Mike. The Alan Bluford Foundation is housed at the Alan Bluford Center for Justice, 2434 Telegraph Avenue. It is a space to help heal the community. And we do a lot of outreach for the youth where they can express their feelings, how they deal with social injustice through art. Whether that's with painting, murals, or writing poetry or singing. We have a dedicated time where kids come and they bring awareness through their art. And we love that because there's so many talented children of Oakland. And with all the programs and the libraries and everything all shortcut, stopped up, we wanted to provide that safe place where people can help, we can help to heal their hearts. I myself am a chaplain and I'm a counselor. So I counsel a lot of the angel mothers or angel sisters, we call people that have suffered traumas, or family members who've gone through and lost their loved ones, and the things that they're doing, and outreach to help them to find some kind of solace on everything that they're doing. So I meet people there and we have counseling sessions. Also, if it's something that's more serious, we have a network with therapists, attorneys, whatever it is that family needs. We do outreach, just say, for instance, their loved one has been shot down and murdered and they don't know what to do. We network with attorneys. We network with therapists to get them healing. We start to help them raise money. We also have homeless outreach, because that is a huge problem in our community. It's a shame because they are paying certain places, certain clergy to house the homeless instead of rebuilding and refurbishing older houses and helping people, supplying them with social work or different needs that they need. We are doing that outreach. We also feed the communities as well. We are also, our next and upcoming big, huge thing that we're very excited about, before the coronavirus hit and everything got shut down, we're working with implementing the STEM program where students can come in and they can get tutoring. We have someone who did software for maritime or for longshoremen, and they weren't on the simulated software so that they can get jobs in the union if they're not going to college. And we do support education, scholarships for those who are going to college, and or those who are trying to play sports and their mothers can't afford it. If they have the grades and they do all the steps they need, we pay for their deposits so that they can play on a team, because there's so many things to get in trouble, but there's not enough things to keep them out of trouble. And we're also working with people that work with this unified school district, because we need our students to have books. They do not need to share a book and take copies. They need books, they need supplies. We need to refurbish our schools. And so we are working on these things. Hopefully the world will open up and everyone will be safe, and we could carry on and do the work to empower the community and help those that are in need and help hearts that heal. And next year will be the 10th year that Allen will be gone from us physically, but we are going to throw a big 10-year celebration. We want the community to come together and use your heels to heal. So that means lace up your boots and get out there and support and love on one another, and let's heal our community. I get so many young people that tell me all the time, wow, if that happened to Allen, I don't stand a chance. And it just breaks my heart, because there's no light, there's no hope, there's no anything to look forward to. So we have to change the mindsets. We have to grow our youth, because they are our future. And thank you so much for this time, and thank you for your support in advance.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. I think we have about, I'd say, 10 or 15 minutes of question time remaining. So I don't know if folks have some specific questions you'd like to ask our wonderful guests tonight. I've tried to just give them a chance to talk and share in their own voice, but maybe you have something more specific you'd like to hear from them. So feel free to put your question in the chat, or you can raise your hand, and Benita and Sister Rachel can help us maybe call on folks if I'm missing them, because my screen only sees half of the audience at one time. But feel free to put it in the chat. I know some folks are, introverted and have a fear of public speaking, even on Zoom, so you may feel more comfortable writing a question. Or if you want to just come off of mute and offer a gratitude or a word of appreciation and ask a question, feel free to do that as well. So let's turn this into a little bit of a conversation for the remaining moments we have left. Anyone?
I see Antonia's question. She has her hand raised.
All right.
Thank you so much, Pastor, and thank you so much to the moms for this moving discussion. Thank you for your suggestions. And I want to start from something that you said, that you particularly emphasize, that we cannot expect, we cannot leave everything to the will of those that enforce the laws, because we have to change the laws. You have to give them the instrument, the tools to apply different policies and to act in a different way. And at the same time, we have to make sure that the laws do not allow you to show your biases and treat people differently. And we are so grateful that you work on policy and you don't stop on the level of blaming this and that person or this police officer or this politician, but you really hit it on the nail, and you work on the important work that we all need to support. And now my question is, in this work, when we work on policy issues in the National Council of Jewish Women, we always look for allies, and if we address the criminal justice system, we look for allies among the police, the law enforcement at large. How do you see your collaboration with the law enforcement?
Great question. Great question. So, Mother Wanda or Geraldine, what kind of collaboration do you think we need to have with law enforcement, or do you have with law enforcement, or how has your relationship with law enforcement changed? And try to be rapid in these responses so we can maybe get to a couple more questions.
For me, dealing with law enforcement, how has it changed? One of the ways that it's changed is really to educate, to work to try to educate them. Oftentimes, many people have been raised that law enforcement was at a higher level than everyone else, and that they were more privileged than everyone else, when in fact, they're just like you and I. There's no difference. And so educating and looking at the policing system and working to change that has caused the relationship with law enforcement in some ways to be positive, in some ways negative, because some police don't want change. They like it just the way it is. And so trying to break that barrier has been hard, but it's something that we will continue to pursue and continue to talk about every time that the foundation has an opportunity to talk about it. That's why we have, gotten in with BART and really been working with BART to change how they're policing and how they're approaching the citizens. And now they have a group of people who talk to the homeless people, who talk to those people on drugs, and they give them pamphlets and stuff versus having the police writing them tickets as they once did and probably still do at times.
Yes, yes. Anything real quick you want to say to that, Geraldine, or there is another question we can throw at you and you can try to answer?
Yeah, that was very good information, because you have to have a rapport and a relationship with the police officers, because how would you know what things, how would they know where you're coming from? How do you know how to get a law change or policy change if you don't do the research or you don't have that kind of communication with them? And so I've been meeting with some police officers who are with the Oakland Police. They work in the police department in Oakland has two different unions. There's the regular police union, and then there is the Black officers union. And a lot of them they want to do change. They want the community to know who they are. Like, we grew up here with you guys. We're one of you. We went to church with her. I know them. And when you can do that and you can share, then you can build trust. And you have to have trust established so that you can come together and bring your common denomination, which is that policy change. And so good. Thank you, Sister Wanda. That was awesome.
So I'm gonna read a couple of questions in here, and both of you can take a stab at whichever one you feel willing to. How can someone volunteer at one of your foundations? And I think I saw Geraldine put in her website, contact her on the website or via her phone number. I think she has that in the chat. Do you have any specific policy recommendations that you'd like to advance? And I think you both spoke a little bit, but maybe if you want to go a little deeper, you can. But this is a real powerful comment and question from Susan. As a mother, I am truly grateful that both of you have been able to move from such deep pain to offer others great hope. Thank you for your strength to carry on. Although there is more awareness of police brutality, do you feel that there are some positive outcomes yet? That's an interesting question. Do we think that there's positive outcomes, positive progress? I know, Mother Wanda, you mentioned the conviction of Messerly, but we kind of experienced a little bit of a disappointment because we were trying to get the other officer charged, and O'Malley wouldn't do it. Do you feel like that demonstrates that maybe we're not as far along as we would like to think we are here in this region?
Absolutely. I think we still have a long way to go. And it goes back to, again, us really beginning to look at the police qualifications to get hired and begin to rewrite those qualifications, because that's one of the things that the foundation is really trying to work on, how we can get that rewritten, because and that's really another topic for another day. But if you just look at the qualifications of hiring a police officer, you will see that there is a a easy way to get into the police force and become an officer and not really have the qualifications that you need to be able to relate with people. And so that definitely has to change.
Well, what would you say, Geraldine, my mother Geraldine, you feel like we have progress? You said it took 8-9 years just for you to get a report. Do you feel some of us know the new police chief of Oakland, LaRon Armstrong, he's an Oakland native. Do you think that's a good hiring in the right direction? Like what do you feel like there's been any progress, or are we really still pushing a boulder up a hill here?
Well, I think both. And I'm saying that because it has been changed with the arrest for Mehserle. I mean, it didn't see the fact that he was arrested. We wanted him to do and serve time, the justice, but God has our justice. So I believe he's going to get his. He will answer for that. But at the same time, because of that, now they see Oscar's case. Now we have Derek Chauvin. You may say that, yes, those two are connected, because you just cannot do these things. You just cannot kill somebody's kid and get away with it. So we have had a positive outcome where now they're at BART. They're talking to the homeless people. She has a voice, that she has a seat at the table where she could go to BART meetings and talk about it. Before, they had just closed the door at your face. So in those things, I think that there is a positive. It's inch by inch. They say inch by inch is a cinch and yard by yard is hard, but inch by inch, a little bit turns into a lot. So right now, we're still working on it. Yes, pushing that boulder up the hill, but at the same time, we have to change the law. And in this United States of America, bottom line is all about money. So you say, well, Sister Geraldine, what are you talking about money? Let me tell you about the Allen bill. If my son's case, the police officer turned off his camera. There was not video because he turned it off, because he was breaking the law. He was violating those policies. He knew it. He turned off his camera. So I feel this: if any police officer turns off their camera or impedes the function, they need to be prosecuted for the murder of that person's loved one. And their pension needs to go to the family of whose life they took. Now, I guarantee you this: if you start taking their pensions, you'll see less killings, because it all drops down to the dollar. And that's a shame and a pity, but it is the truth. And the pressure from the communities, see, the Oscar Grant Foundation, the Justice for Alan Bluford Coalition, many of the community was outraged at what Officer Masso did. They stood up, they fought city council. Guess what? He had to leave. He had to leave Oakland. They covered it up. But at the same time, he had to go. And when George Floyd happened and we pressured more because they were reopening cases, guess what? Even though he went to another department, he hurried up and got out of there because he knew that that report was coming. So if we start taking their pensions and we hold them accountable for their behavior and transparency, if Oakland would have known that he did those bad deeds in New York, he should have never been a cop ever again. But he was, and they allowed that. So now the SB 19 has passed, and that's another victory. We can find out the history of the police before or while they're doing it. But I guarantee if you take their pensions, we'll see less police killings.
Those are so concrete, those recommendations that you both have given us. And I just hope, again, as has been stated by Mother Wanda, Mother Geraldine, it's really going to require all of us to now start making phone calls to our elected officials and to our mayors and county administrators and say, I was on a call with two mothers who told me to call you, and we have to change these systems and these laws because, again, this is not a brand new problem. This is 100-year-long, perpetually uninterrupted reality for Black and increasingly brown folks. It's disproportionately in our communities. The research actually says that more white individuals, white Americans, are killed volume-wise by police officers and most of those incidences are usually mental health related. And so we have a ton of work to do to make sure that police officers are not encountering human beings, other human beings, their fellow human beings, in a mental health crisis situation, because much of their training only causes to use a singular response, and that is lethal force. And so I hope that this conversation will be a wonderful catalyst. I think we're going to start winding down. Mother Wanda and Geraldine, maybe just give us a last word or two, and then we'll turn it back over to Benita or Rachel to kind of take us to the next steps. We'll start with you, Geraldine.
All right.
Because I know Mother Wanda preach, so we'll end on the Mother Wanda preaching.
Amen. Amen. I love to hear her speak. She is a dynamic speaker. I just want to say thank you for this opportunity to share with you on this distinguished panel and to just bring our ideas together. Now you kind of have an idea of what it's like on this side of the fence. And again, also in our communities, we are the ones here in the local government that elect the police chiefs, that put the police chiefs out there, that elect the DAs. There should not be a DA that monopolizes that office for years and years and years, and then they slide under the railroad, slide under the radar, the person that they want. We have a voice, and we should be able to use our voice. It is our right, and not fall under that narrative, oh, my vote doesn't count and all this. We just got away from the fact, and we've seen it in our history, how all people of all ethnic groups have come together. United we stand, divided we fall. We have to stand together. And I love when people come together, because the power of unity, you cannot stop. And God is love. He wants us to share his love for his people, to build the kingdom so that we all get a fair chance and we all get a fair shake. And that starts with us, his people. And I want to just say again that it's very important right now in the city of Oakland, all the problems that are going on. We had more things that are happening, but we have to remember to protect our elderly community as well as our youth. It's just a shame that they can go and pop up all these condos that nobody can afford, but they won't refurbish the school, or the elderly people are struggling to make this bill, or people are just living on the streets and it's graffiti and it's weeds when you get off the freeway. Give somebody a job to cut that down. Let's hire more social workers and train them. The big, huge thing that they need to do, and we need to do, is work on our leadership development, because we're all leaders. We're all leaders. And if we don't lead this community into a better place, if we don't stand for something, we're going to fall for everything. And that's in the words of Adam Bluford. I think he got it from his mom. We don't want to fall for anything. We want to stand for everything. And we want to stand for the right of our people and the fairness in the judicial system. And we can all have a voice in this police reform. Don't stop. Never stop. You can't stop until there is change. And I just want to say Shabbat Shalom to everyone, and thank you once again.
All right. Thank you. Sound like you was ready to preach. I'll drink you some water while you're sitting there in that chair there, Gerald. Go ahead there, Mother Wanda. Look, she's drinking that water. I told you she was preaching. Mother Wanda.
Well, I want to thank you again for this opportunity, and I just was sitting here thinking about, we look at Jesus and we think about how nice he was, how loving he was, but he also had a radical side. When he went to the temple and he seen them selling in the church, he turned over the tables. And so what am I saying today? That we have to get radical and turn over our system and work to change it. And so as we get radical, we have to understand that there'll be days when we just want to throw in the towel and we don't want to do it any longer. But I'm also reminded of the boxer Muhammad Ali. When he was in the ring, that he would take a left jab and he would turn to the left and he would take an uppercut and he would take a punch in the gut, but he didn't throw in the towel. He kept on fighting. And so that's what we need you on this Zoom session to do, to not just get off of this call today or get off of this Zoom session today and say, oh, that was just another panel session. But I want you to be empowered. I want you to be encouraged. I want you to have a fight in you that says, you know what? I'm going to team up with the Alan Bruford Foundation, with the Oscar Grant Foundation, with Pastor Mike McBride foundation and ministry. I'm going to team up with them. I'm going to get out of my comfort zone and get on the streets and say, I'm not going to take it anymore. I'm with them. I'm arm in arm with them. And I'm going to stand until a change comes. And as you get in front of us, we know that a change will come. And so I want to encourage each and every one on this session today that we all have a place in the movement. We all have a work to do, whether it be you writing a letter, whether it be you making a phone call, whether it be you giving up some funds, whether it be you holding the next person's arm as they go forth. We all have a work to do, and together we can get it done. You know, I looked, and I'll go back to 1 second. I looked at something in the chat that talked about if it was dogs getting killed, there would already be a reform in place. And I agree with that so much. And so because our sons' lives can be compared to a dog, because they always say that the African-American young men are vicious like dogs. And so because they have said that, I am charging each one of you to begin to listen to the legislative changes that we want to implement and to vote for them, to sign on with us as we go forward, and understand that this race is not given to the swift nor to the strong, but to the one who endures till the end. And together we can all endure till the end until we get change, until a change takes.
Woo. All right, all right, all right. Two preaching women. My God, today. What a blessing. What a blessing. All right. It's been a pleasure to be with you all. Thank you for letting me just participate. Benita, Rachel, I'll hand it over to either or both of you.
Pastor Mike, what can we say? Thank you for being the ultimate host and moderator. And what can I say? First of all, on behalf of the National Council of Jewish Women, San Francisco, of which I am a board member, Reverend Wanda Johnson and Sister Chaplain Geraldine Bluford, my, oh my, oh my, what can I say? I'm grateful I made it through the night without shedding a tear. I've come really close. So I'm going to make this really short, but thank you is just not enough. There is no way we could ever pay for what you have gone through and for your loss. We have certificates of appreciation for you and honorariums to donate to your foundations. Just a small token of our appreciation for what you have given us here tonight and our support. And we urge everyone here to support these foundations. You have all of the information in the chat. And I would like to also thank our committee, the Racial Justice and Diversity Committee members, Teddy Silverman, our leader, Susan Desmond, Emily Pimentel, Janice Jacobs, Lindsay Newman, Lois Hirsch, Rachel Brasso, and Juliet Chatlin Lefcourt. Thank you all for being here and helping us put this together tonight. And I just can only say thank you. And I feel so small just saying thank you, but thank you so much. And I will turn this over to the Executive President of the National Council of Jewish Women, Antonia Levine, to close us out this evening. Antonia.
Thank you so much, Benita. It's very hard to add anything to what you said. I just echo your words. I wanted to show our certificates of appreciation. We picked gold because your hearts are gold and because your work is gold for our community. And again, this is the least we can do, but we'll follow up and make sure to support your efforts and your critical policy work. Thank you so much for touching our hearts and for all you do.
Thank you.